Hardy fiber cement siding is proven to withstand water, pests, and fire better than wood-based siding. And it looks better while doing it. Hardy siding has been chosen for 10 million homes and counting. See the proof at jameshardy.com.
You just realized your business needed to hire someone yesterday. How can you find amazing candidates fast? Easy. Just use Indeed. Stop struggling to get your job post seen on other job sites. With Indeed sponsored jobs, your post jumps to the top of the page for your relevant candidates, so you can reach the people you want faster. According to Indeed data, sponsored jobs posted directly on Indeed have 45% more applications than non-sponsored jobs. Don't wait any longer. Speed up your hiring right now with Indeed. And listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to get your jobs more visibility at Indeed.com/ARTS. Just go to Indeed.com/ARTS right now and support our show by saying you heard about Indeed on this podcast. Terms and conditions apply. Hiring? Indeed is all you need.
Tape Deck Media.
Welcome to Line by Line, Romeo and Juliet, a Ruddle Me This podcast miniseries. Over the next few weeks, I'm going to be bringing on actors, comedians, and other people that are knowledgeable about the bard himself, William Shakespeare. Each episode, I'm going to bring on a different guest, and we're going to go through the play line by line, and the guest is going to explain to me the bits of the language or add context here and there, basically just explain to me whenever I get stuck. I don't know how many episodes there are going to be of this. We're basically just going to see how far through the play we can get in the 40-minute Zoom time limit and go from there. So sit back, relax, and let's enjoy the show. Good morning, Dan. Welcome to episode 3 of the podcast.
Hi, Taylor.
It's been a minute since you've been on. I think maybe the last time was we were talking about your Odyssey play, maybe?
Yeah, either that or it might have been the Odyssey, might have been the last one, or the visual style of Radiohead's Hail to the Thief album.
That's right. That might have been the first one. That was like episode 7, maybe. Long-time listeners might remember that. So, where did we get up to? The last that I remember, Juliet was talking to her nurse and her mother, and they had kind of said, we think you should go to this party and have a look at Paris. And they were kind of like, you know, we're not going to force you, but we think you should do it. And Jeff was saying it's maybe they were just saying that she had a choice for lip service. We're not quite sure what the intention was there. So yes, scene 4, A Street. We've got 3 characters. We've got Romeo, Mercutio, and Benvolio. Do you have a preference as to who you would like to read their lines?
I mean, this is the Mercutio's scene. This is, other than I don't know if you if anyone's going to be spoiled for a 600-year-old play, but other than Mercutio's death, this is Mercutio's big moment in the piece. So
you'd like to go Mercutio?
Oh, jump on Mercutio,
okay,
yeah,
so
for sure.
I quite like Benvolio, so I'll do Romeo and Benvolio, and then we'll go from there. Okay. So just get the cough out of the way. Here we go. So enter Romeo, Mercutio, Benvolio with 5 or 6 maskers, torchbearers, and others. Romeo says, "What, shall the speech be spoke for our excuse, or shall we on without a apology?" Benvolio, "The date is out of such prolixity. We'll have no Cupid hoodwinked with a scarf, bearing a Tartar's painted bow of lath, scaring the ladies like a crow keeper. Nor no without book prologue faintly spoke after the prompter for our entrance. But we'll let them measure us by what they will. We'll measure them a measure and be gone. Romeo, give me a torch. I am not for this ambling. Being but heavy, I will bear the light."
And so, let me just make sure I understand the format of this.
Yes.
You want to have a chat about what all that shit means?
Yes, let's do that. So the one thing I know is a Tartar. That's the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse.
Yeah, so here they're probably referring to like a Mongolian kind of steppes kind of person. And so I mean the basic gist of this is Romeo kind of comes in and is like, how are we gonna
Like talk
how are
our
we
way
actually gonna
in.
get into this
Yeah,
party?
yeah.
What shall the speech be spoke for our excuse? Shall we make an excuse when we come in, or are we just gonna go in? Are we? Is that what we're
Yeah.
gonna do? And Benvolio's like, look, we're not gonna sneak in and this thing of like a Tartar's painted bow of lath. So lath is like uh like whitewash
Yeah.
or plaster. So it's basically like a toy bow
Mhm.
dressed up like a scarecrow. Like
Yeah.
we're not going in like that. And then they say no without book prologue, which is we're not going to rehearse a speech either. We're going to go in, we're going to have a dance, and then we're going to be out. Is kind of they're
Uh-huh.
crashing the party.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they're going to not draw attention to it. They're just going to sort of make it up on the night and see how they go.
Exactly. They're going to wing the whole thing. They're not going to plan anything. They're not going to get in a disguise. They're just boom, 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 in and out. Yeah.
Okay. So then Mercutio takes over.
He does. And he says, nay, gentle Romeo, we must have you dance.
Not I, believe me. You have dancing shoes with nimble soles. I have a soul of lead, so stakes me to the ground. I cannot move.
You are a lover. Borrow Cupid's wings and soar with them above a common bound.
I actually do remember hearing that line somewhere in the zeitgeist of, life. So that's another one of those famous lines, I think. So then Romeo says, I am too sore and pierced with his shaft to soar with his light feathers and so bound. I cannot bound a pitch above dull woe. Under love's heavy burden do I sink.
And to sink in it, should you burden love? Too great an impression for a tender thing.
Is love a tender thing? It is too rough, too rude, too boisterous, and it pricks like thorn.
If love be rough with you, be rough with love. Prick love for pricking, and you beat love down. Give me a case to put my visage in, a visor for a visor. What care I, what curious eye doth quote deformities? Here are the beetle brows shall blush for me.
Okay.
So this kind of sequence, right?
Yeah.
Is a real classic kind of Shakespeare wordplay. So where there's kind of like one person will make a statement, and then the other person will kind of reverse the statement by kind of doing some puns on what they've just said.
Yeah.
You're a lover, borrow Cupid's wings, soar with them. Oh, I'm too sore and pierced with his shaft to soar with his light feathers.
Yeah.
And under love's heavy burden do I sink. And then Mercutio immediately is like, and to sink in it, should you burden love? Oh, you're putting too much weight on it. It's too great an oppression for a tender thing. And then Romeo is love a tender thing? Like you can see how they just there's this constant kind of yes-anding of what each other is saying and kind of going wordplay. So
they're almost sparring in a sense, aren't they? Like they're kind of fencing almost. Yeah.
It's very much the most famous example is probably Beatrix and Benedict in Much Ado About Nothing, who are just like they're kind of the ultimate like haters become lovers vibe, and they are all like this, just like hyper smart kind of wordplay, just bouncing back, and it definitely is. There is a sense of kind of a duel of wits through the whole thing.
Yes. I remember reading somewhere, someone had summarized a bunch of television shows, and it was almost like they were presented as if a kind of what if universe. So like, I remember the one for Joss Whedon, it was like Joss Whedon's world is one where everybody is super witty and super snarky at all times. And Dawson's Creek was where everybody is super eloquent and there's no stigma about talking about your feelings and everything like that. So yeah, I think Shakespeare definitely has his everybody is suddenly super good with words and very fecund and light on their feet, as it were.
Yeah, and you see the lineage of this in, as you say, like things like those that kind of hyper articulate Joss Whedon style, Gilmore Girls, like these but even like 50s screwball comedies, I imagine the babe. What babe? Babe the power, pop power, power of voodoo. Who do you do? Like,
that's right.
So
it's very much
you see that it's a long proud tradition. I'm not saying it originated here, but obviously the man was pretty good at it.
No kidding. So then Benvolio takes over and he says, come, knock and enter, and no sooner in, but every man betake him to his legs. Romeo, a torch from me, I let wantons light of heart tickle the senseless rushes with their heels, for I am proverb with a grandsire phrase. I'll be a candle holder and look on. The game was ne'er so fair, and I am done.
Tut, done's the mouse, the constable's own word. If thou art done, we'll draw thee from the mire of this Sir Reverence love, wherein thou stickest up to thy ears. Come, we burn daylight, ho.
Nay, that's not so.
I mean, sir, in delay we waste our lights in vain, like lamps by day. Take our good meaning, for our judgment sits 5 times in that ear, once in our 5 wits.
Romeo, and we mean well in going to this masque, but 'tis no wit to go.
Why, may one ask?
I dreamed a dream tonight.
And so did I.
Well, what was yours?
That dreamers often lie.
In bed asleep, while they do dream things true.
Cool. So,
a long one.
So we're about to jump into Mercutio's kind of big speech, but so there's this one of my I love this stupid wordplay back here, which is the game was near. So Romeo says, "I'll be a candle holder and look on. The game was near so fair, and I'm done." Which is basically saying, I'm not going to, sure, we'll go to this party, but I'm not going to be dancing. I'll just stand at the side with a candle and that'll be what I do, because I'm done. And then Mercutio is immediately like, tut, done's the mouse, where he's referencing Romeo saying that he's done, but it's done the color, right? Like, so that kind of light brown.
Yeah.
And so basically, it's like, if you're done, you're a cow. You're being a mouse, right? You're a coward. And then he's like, if thou art done, we'll draw thee from the mire, right? So also done, mud, right?
Yeah.
And we'll draw thee from the mire of this, where thou stickest up to thy ears. So basically, it's like you're kind of being a stick in the mud. Yeah. And like, there's like 4 layers of puns all kind of going on at the same time.
Wow, it's so dense.
It is so dense, and but it's not designed to be reflected. It's all like, it's so rich, but it's all throwaway.
Yeah.
Like when you think about it kind of in a contemporary like comedy context. I mean, it's a comedy scene, right?
Yeah.
It's excuse me. It's the drunk boys go to the party they're gonna crash.
Yeah.
And do jokes on the way.
Yeah.
It's all just throwaway gags.
But it's so good.
yeah. It's real deep. It's a real
and that's mad to think that, like, he's just like, it was what, 5 seconds of a sentence, and it's got 3 puns and a real good analogy in it, and also he's relevantly talking to his friend, and it's all just like that. So it's really impressive. Yeah.
And then it's not even the crux of like Mercutio's line here, because then immediately he goes, "Come, we burn daylight, ho," and then they immediately go into this next bit where Romeo is like, "No, we're not burning daylight because it's nighttime." Like, it's night, and Mercutio's like, I mean that just by delaying we waste our lights in vain, like lamps by day, right? Like, that's actually where the whole all that done is just building to this next bit, which is like, can we can we get going?
We're
Like,
wasting
we're stalling
time,
here. Yeah.
What I find so interesting as well is compared to, I think, maybe the way, like, if someone was this depressed in a TV show now, I feel like the other characters would be annoyed by them. But like everyone around Romeo is like, like Tai Chi, you like take the attacker and then you sort of, send it back at them or whatever. No, it's not Tai Chi, but you know what I mean? The Chinese martial arts sort of thing where, he's sending all this negativity at them and, I'm so heavy with love and blah, 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 and they're just like, yeah, but, and then like sending back positivity towards him. I think it's quite refreshing actually that like how intent these characters are on cheering him up.
Yeah. Well, I also think that they are like, this is bullshit. Like, come on, get over it. Like,
yeah.
Come on. Like, how long did you know her for? Like,
that's
dude,
right.
Get over it. But yeah, but you do get a real sense that they do love each other and that they are kind of great buds and and that they are kind of like, come on, man, come on, we're gonna go to a party. It's gonna be awesome.
Better. We'll go to the party. Yeah. We'll look at some ladies. You'll realize,
yeah.
I think it's that thing as well where because Romeo is only 16 or something, right? Are Benvolio and Mercutio older than him?
Yeah.
How much? Do you know how much older they are? Are they like sort of in their 20s?
I think they're kind of like a bit more. Because it was Benvolio was his cousin.
Yeah, his cousin, and then
his older cousin, and then Mercutio is just like their friend or something.
Yeah, so I think there's probably as well an element of that thing where when a teenager that is full of angst, and you're like, I know this feels like everything to you right now, but you're going to laugh at this in a few years. So maybe that's as well how they're able to be so like, yes, Romeo, you're pierced with Cupid's thing, but you can still, it's not the end. Yeah. So do you want to have a crack at this long thing by Mercutio?
Yeah. So then they kind of crack into this, so there's a little bit of foreshadowing here because Romeo's kind of had this weird dream the night before that is kind of portentous and this is kind of, it's one of our first kind of, I mean, the thing about Romeo and Juliet, and I'm sure you talked about this, is that we know exactly what's going to happen right from the top.
Yeah.
There's no mystery whatsoever. It's basically, here's what's going to happen. Now watch the inevitable occur. Like that's what's going to happen. So here you go. And this is one of the points where we like, because up to this point it's kind of been it's fun and it's like it's dudes fighting on the street and it's domestic and here's these guys going for a party and they're doing jokes and there's a couple of moments in this scene. This is one of them, and there's another one kind of near the end, which is just like this hint of. We just get this whiff of the doom that they are kind of building to, and and so he's like, I dreamed a dream last night, and he's kind of like, it wasn't a good dream, but Mercutio was like, oh yeah, you had a sex dream, okay, yeah, whatever,
you dirty dog,
Yeah. And I don't believe that for a second, that he's like, dreamers often lie. And then Romeo's like, no, but when they're in bed, they dream things that they think are true, or that are important to them. And then Mercutio goes on to this, this big speech. So I'll have a crack at it.
Yep. If you want to tap out, let me know and I can take over.
Yeah. Okay. Aha. Then I see Queen Mab hath been with you. She is the fairy's midwife, and she comes in shape no bigger than an agate stone on the forefinger of an alderman, drawn with a team of little atomies athwart men's noses as they lie asleep. Her wagon spokes made of long spiders' legs, the cover of the wings of grasshoppers, the traces of the smallest spider's web, the collars of the moonshine's watery beams, her whip of cricket bone, the lash of film, her wagon a small grey-coated gnat, not so big as a round little worm, pricked from the lazy finger of a maid. Her chariot is an empty hazelnut made by the joiner squirrel or old grub, time out of mind the fairies' coachmakers. And in this state she gallops night by night through lovers' brains, and then they dream of love. O'er courtiers' knees that dream on curtsies straight, o'er lawyers' fingers who straight dream on fees, o'er ladies' lips who straight on kisses dream, which oft the angry mab with blisters plagues, because their breaths with sweetmeats tainted are. Sometimes she gallops over a courtier's nose, and then dreams he of smelling out a suit. And sometimes comes she with a tife pig's tail, tickling a parson's nose as he lies asleep. Then dreams he of another benefice. Sometimes she driveth o'er a soldier's neck, and then dreams he of cutting foreign throats, of breaches, ambuscados, Spanish blades, of health's 5 fathom deep, and then anon drums in his ear, at which he starts and wakes, and being thus frighted swears a prayer or two and sleeps again. This is that very mab that plats the manes of horses in the night and bakes the elf locks and foul sluttish hairs, which once untangled much misfortune bodes. This is the hag, when maids lie on their back, that presses them and learns them first to bear, making them women of good carriage. This is she.
Peace, peace, Mercutio, peace. Thou talks of nothing.
True, I talk of dreams, which are children of an idle brain, begot of nothing but vain fantasy. So yeah, it's a big old speech, but it's pretty fun. Because the first half of it is kind of just this real delightful,
like a fairy tale almost, right?
Picture this little fairy queen who rides around in like a chariot made out of a nut.
Yeah, with squirrels or something in there, I think, wasn't it?
Yeah, being pulled along by grasshoppers. And kind of, so there's this beautiful kind of image that's constructed, and then that she is kind of this thing that gives people dreams, right? This is where this is the source of dreams and where it comes from, and then so it goes through this list of kind of people that she gives dreams to. So as she's kind of flying around the world, she gives people kind of the dreams that so she goes through lovers' brains, and then they dream of love, and then but it starts getting more and more
sinister, right?
Sinister. Absolutely.
She driveth o'er a soldier's neck and then dreams of cutting foreign throats. So that's like the PTSD dreams almost she's giving people.
Yeah. And then anon drums in his ear, at which he starts and wakes, and being thus frighted swears a prayer or two, sleeps again. Yeah. And this and then this is this is the hag when like by the end he's clearly got quite manic with the telling of it. Like he's gone like kind of he's in like, so in the Baz Luhrmann version, I think he drops acid.
Yes, that'll do it.
Through this and kind of, but I mean, there's heaps of way to do it, but that's, because it's a contemporary telling, it's kind of a nice way to kind of do it.
This actually brings up a point that I sort of, because to my sort of outsider, just vague knowledge of what Shakespeare's themes and stuff are. The only other one I've seen is a long time ago, I saw Midsummer Night's Dream. So there's a whole thing of like the Fae and sort of fairy tales and stuff kind of woven into Shakespeare's work. I didn't actually realize that it was in Romeo and Juliet as well, but interesting little side note. I'm reading a series at the moment called The Dresden Files, which is a modern sort of urban fantasy wizard, and Queen Mab is in that as Queen of the Fairies again. And I didn't realize that Queen Mab is actually like a stock character almost. I thought it was something that he'd come up with for this series. So that's really interesting to learn. The other thing I was going to say, I remember hearing a horror story recently that was talking about plaiting the mane of horses in the night. This is something that the fairies do, and if you wake up with your horses plaited, that's bad.
Yeah. It bakes the elf locks and foul sluttish hairs, which once untangled much misfortune bodes. I mean, that's evocative. And I think that's kind of the also is, this text is meant to be spoken, not meant to be. It was never designed to be
like written down kind of
literature.
thing. Yeah,
To
yeah.
be well, to be like analyzed as text, like it stands up to it incredibly well. But the primary purpose of the text is to deliver compelling live performance, right? That's what it's for. And so sometimes, you know, I find when I go and watch a Shakespeare show, it takes me a minute or two to kind of click into the mode.
Yeah.
And it's really easy at the start to kind of get like kind of overwhelmed by,
Yeah.
I don't know what that word means, but it's often just kind of capture the sense and just like,
Yeah.
you know, let it kind of wash over you and have stick what sticks. And you know, you tend to, if it's good acting, and you pick up a lot and context cues and blah blah blah, and then, you know, like things like, as you say, this is that very mab that plats the manes of horses in the night and bakes the elf locks and foul sluttish hairs, which once untangled much fortune bodes. Like, there's a lot of words in that could very easily just bounce off your head.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
you know, you still go like, that sounds cool.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
like
I don't know what he's saying, but it sounds
yeah.
pictures.
It sounds supernatural and creepy.
Yes. Yeah.
And I
guess
like that.
the cool thing is to look back at it and go like, oh, that actually is a fairy folklore thing. So like, obviously he kind of knew, you know, historical stuff and folklore and all that kind of thing.
Yes, I mean, a big part of often what is kind of perplexing or kind of creates a bit of a barrier between the work and a contemporary audience is the understanding of topical referencing, because there's a lot of things that it's like, well, everyone would know everyone knows this piece of folklore, so I can make these allusions to it quite easily, and that's kind of a common knowledge.
Yes.
You know, it's like, you know, kind of making jokes about the Kardashians now, right? Like, everyone's like, oh, it's in the zeitgeist, it's in the vibe. 100%. We all know what it is. And
I think in one of the previous ones I even mentioned that perhaps the Capulets and the Montagues would be a bit like the Trump family and the Kardashians feuding with each other or something like that. These kind of socialite, wealthy families. So I think you've got about half of a Mercutio one left. You said begot of nothing but vain fantasy.
True. I talk of dreams, which are the children of an idle brain, begot of nothing but vain fantasy, which is as thin of substance as the air and more inconstant than the wind, who woos even now the frozen bosom of the north, and, being angered, puffs away from thence, turning his face to the dew-dropping south.
Benvolio, this wind you talk of blows us from ourselves. Supper is done, and we shall come too late. Oh, sorry, it's Romeo next. I fear too early, for my mind misgives some consequences yet hanging in the stars. Shall bitterly begin his fearful date with this night's revels, and expire the term of a despised love closed in my breast by some vile forfeit of untimely death. But he that hath the steerage of my course, direct my sail on, lusty gentlemen.
Cool. So I love this Benvolio line, right? Which is like, up to this point, Benvolio has been quite quiet. Like, there's just been all this back and forth between Romeo and Mercutio, and then Mercutio has done this massive kind of rant about fairy people and dreams,
the fae,
and all this. And then Benvolio's just like, the wind you talk of blows us from ourselves. Like, just like the sniper just turns up. Supper's done, we'll come too late. And then and then it's like, okay, we're wrapping, we're about to leave, but this is that kind of final moment where Romeo tells us what this dream kind of has set off in him. And he's, you know, Benvolio's like, we'll come too late, and he's like, I'm worried it's too soon,
Mm.
because there's some consequence yet hanging in the stars. Shall Bidley begin his fearful date with this night's revels and expire the term? Basically, he's like, I'm worried that going to here, and again, it comes back to this idea of the doom, that we are about to, we are watching these characters go down a predetermined path that nothing they do can alter the course of
and so does
these 2 hours traffic of our stage.
Yeah, he hasn't actually said what his dream was, but he just knows something bad is going to happen.
Yeah, his mind misgives some consequence yet hanging in the stars, right? So again, and so much of, like, when you think about kind of the big themes or big metaphors of R&J, it's so much of it is 2 star-crossed lovers take their lives, and so this idea of destiny, of it being kind of predetermined, of the stars kind of having this influence over you, that sort of thing.
I understand a little bit better the idea of like the tragedy of like you say, we know how it's going to end, and we're almost like watching them going, oh, they've got no idea what's coming, and they're just going about their lives, and then we know something bad's going to happen, and they don't. So when he says strike drum, what is he referring to there? Just like let's.
So if you remember at the start of the scene, they come in with these there's all these extras that kind of come in with them.
Yeah.
And the idea is basically that one of them is a musician, and they walk to like someone's kind of drumming them along. And so strike drum is just like, oi, like,
let's go.
DJ,
yeah,
pick it up. Like, let's.
He's the equivalent of
drop
the guy,
my walking beat.
The equivalent of the guy in the passenger seat putting on a banger of a track to
he's the guy with the aux cable.
Outstanding. So that's the end of that scene, and that's perfect. We just got the 10-minute Zoom one. So thanks for joining me, Dan. Let's ask a little bit about yourself. So what's your kind of history with Shakespeare?
I was a bit of a Shakespeare nerd at school. I was a Sheila Wynne Shakespeare kid. And I actually I was real thrilled at this scene. I actually did. 1 year we did a Romeo and Juliet interpretation that was actually just following Mercutio. So rather than being like, it just kind of treated the rest of the play as kind of extraneous things that happened around it, and it was just playing through Mercutio's scene. And I
interesting.
I played Mercutio for that, so I was kind of thrilled when I was like, oh no, I've done this speech before. Like, awesome. I can kind of have a decent crack at it.
Very good.
Yeah. So.
Oh no, go ahead. Yeah, I didn't realize you'd want to say.
Oh no, so so that was kind of through school. It was kind of a thing for me, I guess. And then I've done quite a few things that are like kind of subversions of Shakespeare stuff. So I did a show with Half Keen and Brendan Bennett's called Pulp William, which was like a improv Shakespeare Tarantino mashup. So we'd kind of improvise long format kind of gangster movies, but all in Shakespearearian language and using kind of Shakespeare conventions and that sort of thing.
Awesome.
Yeah, and like also, I don't know if like my street show, which I did for however many years, kind of touring around. The finale to that was like this multi-section piece, part of which was putting 20 clothes pegs on my face while I recited the opening monologue to William Shakespeare's Richard III.
I haven't kind of seen that.
So yeah, right. I don't do it very often nowadays. I'll break it out maybe once a year, kind of thing.
I have seen one thing that you do that I thought was genius. It was you collected some information from the crowd and then did like a Shakespeare sonnet, or you did a sort of like retelling of all this. And I remember the one
I did their day as a Shakespeare play. Yeah,
is that what it was? Yeah. Which I thought was genius. That was great. Yeah. So next, go ahead.
Oh yeah, so I mean, I've got and then I actually was I was in the Court Theatre's production of Midsummer Night's Dream, which we toured to China, and I directed the Court's Titus Andronicus. So I've got like a after kind of all that time of kind of subverting it. I then kind of eventually
played it straight.
Oh yeah, and also we did Hamlet the video game for the arts festival. We did several seasons of that.
That's cool. That's one I'd like to do as well as Hamlet and Macbeth. I'd like to do as as series like this because I've only vaguely aware of them. So next question, just as we're running out of time, why do you think Shakespeare has retained for so long? Is there anything that's kind of about it that you think is like kept it in kind of relevant and people obviously still connecting to it today?
Yeah, I mean, I think part of it is just the longevity, right? Like the older something gets, the more the more cultural weight, I guess, it carries. So there's definitely that, but I don't think it would have maintained that. Like that gives it a bonus. I think that, and a lot of people are like, oh well, Shakespeare. I mean, it's old, so it must be good. But the thing is, is that it's old, but it's not actually the fact that it's old that makes it good. It's actually good. Like some cracking storytelling, and just really beautiful language, and also it's still really playable. Again, I think I kind of mentioned this a bit earlier, but it was never designed to be the subject of academic theses. It was designed to play to 200 drunk peasants. Who are
like throwing dice,
standing up in a like I often talked about how Titus, when I was working that, it's like this is a play that had to compete with bear baiting as a form of entertainment, And I think it's real easy to get too deep into like the magic of it, where it's like it's practical. These are documents for the practical execution of performance. They're not absolutely sacred texts.
So then final question, what are your social media links, Dan, if the listeners want to see more of what you're up to online?
So I'm I am Dan Bain _ it's on the Instagram. That's kind of primarily where I'm the most active. You can also follow me on Facebook at I am Dan Bain, but I try and avoid that, to be honest. And you can find my podcast, my sleep aid podcast, Sleepy Time Mumbles, wherever you find your finest podcasts.
Very good. They can also sign up to your mailing list as well, which I am a subscriber of, and I always look forward to.
Great.
At the end of the month, I always see an email, and it's, I guess the automatic thing puts my name in it or something, because I see an email that says, "Hey Taylor," and I'm like, "Well, what? How does this thing know my name?"
No, I hand type them out.
Delightful. Well, thanks for joining me, Dan. Would you like to come back and do another one of these later on once I sort of cycle through the list of people I've got?
Yeah, let's see where you kind of end up. But no, I'm happy to kind of come back in and kind of power through another scene or some such at some point.
Fantastic. Thanks for joining me, man.
Cool, man. Pleasure.
So that brings us to the end of another episode of Line by Line. Thank you so much for listening, and if you've enjoyed it, please tell your theatre-loving friends about it. Give us a share on social media, and most importantly, leave a review on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or Good Pods, or whatever your favourite podcatcher is. Come back next week, same time, same place, for another episode of Line by Line. To quote the bard himself, "Parting is such sweet sorrow that I shall say goodnight till it be next week." Thank you for listening.
This has been a Tape Deck Media production. Thank you for listening.
You just realized your business needed to hire someone yesterday. How can you find amazing candidates fast? Easy. Just use Indeed. Stop struggling to get your job post seen on other job sites. With Indeed sponsored jobs, your post jumps to the top of the page for your relevant candidates, so you can reach the people you want faster. According to Indeed data, sponsored jobs posted directly on Indeed have 45% more applications than non-sponsored jobs. Don't wait any longer. Speed up your hiring right now with Indeed. And listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to get your jobs more visibility at Indeed.com/ARTS. Just go to Indeed.com/ARTS right now and support our show by saying you heard about Indeed on this podcast. Terms and conditions apply. Hiring? Indeed is all you need.